Yo, what's good, Dub Nation? Listen, I need you to drop everything you're doing right now because what I'm about to tell you is going to send shockwaves through the entire Bay Area and beyond. I was watching First Take this morning with Stephen A. Smith and Michael Porter Jr. was the guest. And bro, what happened on that show was absolutely insane. This was not a normal interview. This was not a guy doing media rounds and saying nice things. This was Michael Porter Jr. ripping the mask off, going completely unfiltered, talking about the Golden State Warriors, about Stephen Curry, about his time in Denver, about his season in Brooklyn, about the Nets organization, and about his future in a way that has the entire NBA world on fire right now. I had to rewind this segment 4 times because every time I thought he was done dropping bombs, he dropped another one. So sit tight, lock in, because this is gonna be the craziest video I've put out all year, and I promise you the ending is gonna leave you absolutely speechless. Hey, what's up everyone? Real quick before we get into everything, that like button is literally what determines if this reaches hundreds or thousands of fans. Takes 1 second but makes a huge impact on the channel's growth. Just smash that like button right now. It's the easiest thing you can do, but honestly the biggest way to support this content. Every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. Here's the context. Michael Porter Jr. just finished a breakout season as the Brooklyn Nets' primary scorer. We're talking 24.2 points, 7.1 rebounds, 3.0 assists per game on 46 to 36, 86 shooting splits. Career highs across the board. The man walked into Brooklyn after being traded from Denver for Cam Johnson last summer and proved to the entire world that he is not a system player, not a third option who needs Jokic to create for him, not a guy who disappears when the spotlight is on him. He's a legitimate first option scorer who carried a 20-62 team on his shoulders until his hamstring gave out in late March. Now he's sitting on a $40. $8 million expiring contract, and the Nets, who have 13 first-round picks over the next 7 years and the youngest roster in the league, are widely expected to trade him this summer. The Warriors, Pistons, and several other teams were rumored to have interest at the deadline, but Brooklyn held firm. Now the offseason gates are open and every contender in the league is circling, so Stephen A. starts the interview asking about the hamstring injury, and MPJ gives a standard answer. He's healed, ahead of schedule, feels great. Then Stephen A. asks about his season in Brooklyn, and MPJ talks about how much he grew. He mentions Igor Demon and the young guys, how the Nets have a bright future, textbook stuff, but then Stephen A., being Stephen A., goes for the kill shot. He leans in and says, Michael, the Golden State Warriors just went 37-45. They missed the playoffs for the second time in 3 years. Jimmy Butler tore his ACL. Steph Curry played only 43 games. Steve Kerr's future was uncertain before they renewed him. This franchise is desperate. If the phone rings and it's Mike Dunleavy on the other end, what do you say? And the entire energy of the interview shifted in an instant. MPJ's body language transformed. He went from relaxed, casual, leaning back in his chair to sitting up straight, elbows on knees, eyes locked onto Stephen A., like a man who'd been waiting months for this exact question. And when he spoke, his voice had a different quality, harder, more urgent, like he was trying to hold something back but couldn't anymore. Stephen A., I'm going to tell you something right now that I've never said publicly. I've studied the Golden State Warriors system more than any other team in basketball, not because someone asked me to, not because my agent told me to, because I've been obsessed with it ever since I watched Klay Thompson operate in that offense. The movement, the screens, the way the ball finds the open man, the way shooters come off pin downs and curl into open looks, that system was made for a player like me. I've spent my entire career being told I'm a catch and shoot guy, that I need someone else to create for me. And you know what? In Denver, that was partly true because Jokic was the engine and I was a beneficiary, but in Brooklyn this year, I proved I can be the engine and the beneficiary. Now imagine me in Steve Kerr's system where everyone is moving, everyone is screening, and I'm coming off those actions with my 6'10" frame and my release that takes less than a second. There is no defender in the NBA who can stay with me through 3 screens and then contest my shot in time. Not one. I literally jumped off my couch. Stephen A.'s eyes went wide. The whole panel was leaning forward. This wasn't some hypothetical future talk. This was a man who had been doing homework, watching film, and constructing a vision of exactly how he would dominate in a Warriors uniform, and he was just getting started. Let me talk about Stephen Curry, because I need people to understand something. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter who has ever lived. He averaged 26.6 points this year at 38 years old. He was the third highest scorer at his age in NBA history. He got named to his 12th All-Star game. And the Warriors repaid that by surrounding him with a roster that went 37-45. 37-45. Do you understand how insane that is? You have the greatest shooter in basketball history, a man who is still producing at an elite level, and you go 37-45. That's not a Steph problem. That's a roster problem. That's an organizational problem. That's a we haven't given this man the help he needs problem. Now he went directly at the Warriors' current roster, and this is where things got heated. Let me break down the Warriors' numbers this season because the stats tell the story better than I can. Golden State used 43 different starting lineups this year. 43. That tells you everything about how chaotic and inconsistent this team was. They ranked 17th in offensive rating even though they launched 44.1 threes per game, the highest mark in franchise history. The shooting volume was there, but the shot quality wasn't because they didn't have enough guys who could create high percentage looks. Their net rating was plus 1.3, 14th in the league. That's the definition of mediocrity. And when Steph went down with that knee injury for 27 straight games from February to April, the team completely fell apart. They couldn't score, they couldn't execute, they had no identity. I watched those games and it was painful. A franchise that won 4 championships in 8 years looked lost without one player on the court. That's not a team. That's a one-man show with no supporting cast. Let me talk about what happened with Jimmy Butler, because I think people are being too nice about this. Jimmy Butler came to Golden State and he was great when healthy. He was second on the team in scoring. He was a plus 185 in 38 games. He was doing everything you could ask. But then he tears his ACL in January and the whole thing falls apart. And now you've got a 36-year-old on a $56.8 million contract recovering from a torn ACL who might not be back until late 2026 at the earliest. That's not a championship piece. That's a question mark. A massive, expensive, terrifying question mark. And then you traded Jonathan Kuminga, a 23-year-old who just averaged 14.8 points and 7 rebounds in his first 6 games in Atlanta for Kristaps Porzingis, a guy who played 17 games all season because of POTS and is about to be an unrestricted free agent. Kuminga's out there thriving in Atlanta, hitting 75-foot buzzer beaters, looking like a completely different player, and the Warriors got a rental who barely played. How does that help Steph? The way he said, "How does that help Steph?" was dripping with frustration. Not anger at the Warriors specifically, but frustration on behalf of a player he clearly admires watching his prime years slip away surrounded by injuries and bad decisions. And then there's the coaching staff situation. Terry Stotts and Jerry Stackhouse are gone. 2 of Steve Kerr's top assistants aren't coming back. The Warriors are literally rebuilding their coaching infrastructure while trying to compete for a championship. You can't do both. You have to pick one. And if you're going to pick competing, if you're going to pick giving Steph Curry one more real shot at a ring, then you need to make a real move, not a tweak, not a depth signing, a real franchise-altering acquisition. And I'm sitting right here telling you I'm that acquisition. The interview went to commercial break, and I swear to you, I thought my heart was going to beat out of my chest. Michael Porter Jr. was not being subtle. He was not hinting. He was constructing a case, point by point, for why the Golden State Warriors need to trade for him right now. And when the show came back from break, he somehow had more to say. Stephen A. came back and asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "Michael, you seem to have thought about this a lot. Have you talked to anyone in Golden State?" And MPJ paused. He rubbed his hands together. He looked down for a second. And then he looked up with this slight smile and said something that broke the internet. "I'm not going to confirm or deny any phone calls because I don't want to get anyone fined. But I will say this, there are people in the Golden State Warriors organization who understand what I would bring. And there's a certain someone whose number 30 jersey I've had since I was in high school who knows exactly how good we'd be together. I'll leave it at that." B-R-O. He's talking about Steph. He basically confirmed without confirming that he and Steph Curry have discussed this. Stephen A. almost fell out of his chair. He started pacing around the set screaming, "Did you hear what he just said?" And the social media world exploded. Within 5 minutes, MPJ to Warriors was trending #1 on every platform. But then MPJ got personal, and this is where the interview went from explosive to genuinely moving. Let me tell you something about what it's like to play on a 20-win team, because I don't think people truly understand. In Brooklyn, I played my heart out every single night. I gave everything I had. I averaged 24 points while being the primary focus of every defense we faced. And we won 20 games. 20. The Nets lost all 7 games I missed. Their offense went from top 10 with me on the court to bottom of the league without me. I was literally the entire offense. And you know what that does to you mentally? It breaks something inside of you because you're out there fighting, competing, leaving it all on the floor, and at the end of the night, you've lost by 15. Again and again and again. I love the Nets organization. I love Coach Jordy Fernandez. I love the young guys like Igor Demon and Nick Claxton and Day'Ron Sharp. But that environment, losing that much, being that far from contention, it takes a toll on your soul. I'm 27 years old. I'm in the prime of my career. I have a championship ring and I want another one. And I owe it to myself to be in a position where winning is the expectation, not the exception. That hit me hard. You could see the raw emotion on his face. This wasn't a guy being greedy or entitled. This was a competitor who spent a year in basketball purgatory and came out the other side saying, "I'm ready for something real." And then he delivered the final piece of his argument for Golden State, and it was devastating in its simplicity. I want everyone to picture this. Starting lineup, Steph Curry at the 1, someone solid at the 2, maybe DeAnthony Melton, who was their best plus-minus guy this year, or Gary Payton II, who shot 58% from the field, me at the 3, Draymond Green at the 4 with all his defensive genius and passing ability, and either Porzingis if they re-sign him or another capable center at the 5. Now picture Steph running off a Draymond screen on the left side. The defense chases him. Because it's Steph Curry, you have to chase him. That opens up the lane. Draymond swings it to me on the right wing where I've come off a down screen. My defender is half a step behind. I rise up 6'10", release over the top, splash, 3 points. Now the defense adjusts. They send help to me. Steph relocates to the corner. Wide open. Splash. 3 more points. The defense is scrambling. Draymond finds a cutter back door. Easy layup. That's the Warriors system at its absolute peak. That's what Golden State looked like when they had Klay Thompson in his prime. And I'm telling you right now, I'm a better scorer than Klay ever was. Klay was a better defender, I'll give him that. But offensively, I'm taller, I'm more versatile, I can put the ball on the floor, I can post up smaller guards, I can get my own shot. Klay was a movement shooter, I'm a movement scorer. There's a difference. That line. Klay was a movement shooter, I'm a movement scorer. That is going to be replayed on every basketball show for the next month. It's going to be debated, analyzed, and argued about until our ears bleed. And whether you agree with it or not, the confidence, the self-awareness, the understanding of his own game that it takes to say something like that on national television is extraordinary. Now let me give you my analysis because the dominoes are about to start falling. First, the trade mechanics are there. Jimmy Butler's expiring contract of $56.8 million could be the salary matching piece the Warriors used to acquire MPJ's $40.8 million deal. Brooklyn would also want young pieces and picks. Moses Moody is a former lottery pick who hasn't broken through in Golden State but has value as a young wing on a cheap contract. Brandon Podziemski is a fan favorite but a potential sweetener. Add a couple of first-round picks and you've got a package that Sean Marks in Brooklyn can sell to ownership. The Warriors give up future assets, but they get a 27-year-old scorer who fits their system like a glove. Second, the basketball fit is genuinely terrifying. MPJ made 3. 4 threes per game this year on 36% shooting. In Golden State's system, with better looks coming off screens and Curry drawing so much attention, those numbers could jump to 39 to 40%. He had the equivalent of a top 10 offense with him on the floor in Brooklyn, where the talent was minimal. In Golden State, with Curry spacing the floor and Kerr designing actions, that offense could be historic. Third, the timing matters. Curry is 38. He has maybe 2 years of elite production left. The Warriors absolutely cannot afford to waste another season. They went 37-45 this year. They used 43 different starting lineups. The inconsistency was maddening. MPJ would give them the one thing they've been missing since Klay Thompson left and Kevin Durant before him: a high-volume, high-efficiency wing scorer who can operate within the motion offense and punish any defense that overcommits to Curry. Dub Nation, I need to hear from you right now. Is MPJ the answer? Is he the guy who unlocks one more championship run for Steph Curry? Can his body hold up? Can his game thrive in Kerr's system? Or would you rather see the Warriors go in a completely different direction? Drop your comments below, because the next 2 months are going to define the future of this franchise, and every voice matters.